So welcome, Peter Carson here from Extranet User Manager.
And I'm Christrian Buckley from Collab Talk.
So we're here today, we're going to talk about all the announcements. It's day 2 of Microsoft Ignite, lots of announcements coming out, but we're going to focus that down and really just look at Microsoft 365, and even that's a big bucket.
There's a lot that was covered in the first 2 days of keynotes from Satya and Jeff Teeper, Seth Patton, Jared Spataro, kind of all of those, the product team members. We're not going to try and cover everything, but this is the meat and potatoes of day 1 and day 2 announcements.
Exactly, what's cool and interesting from a SharePoint Online Teams point of view, the Office apps, that whole stack.
A lot of announcements have been coming out, slow trickle for some of them over the last couple of weeks, but of course, the build up towards this event.
The big reveal, yes.
That's right.
The keynote starting yesterday morning. So.
Well, one of the more exciting things, and I know we were talking about this just off camera, talking about the Gartner Magic Quadrant and the announcement that came out last week, and Microsoft moving, it's been in the leadership quadrant for the last 2 years, but is now the clear front runner in this space around collaboration and information and knowledge management space.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's very exciting.
It is. It's nice to see that validation from external from that point of view. And some of the keynotes, I mean, they always start with cool and interesting stats. The fact that Office 365 is now crossed the threshold of 100 million monthly active users, so that's a huge number from a SaaS point of view.
There were a number of sessions to pay attention to. Obviously, you have started things off yesterday, the big keynote with Satya Nadella. We had other keynotes that followed behind that. You had your corporate vice president, Jared Spataro. You had Jeff Teeper, Seth Patton. So a lot of very important announcements spread across all those things.
And really, that's just on the Microsoft 365 side. I mean, this is an all-up tech conference. There's 1,800 sessions. There's more content than any one person could ever absorb. So we're really just diving in on that side of it.
Right, there's if you're following what's happening around Azure, in fact, we got kind of a preview as MVPs into the announcements, and there were just pages upon pages and pages of the announcements around Azure, none of which I really paid attention to. So
the AI stuff is cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going on.
The massive scale, all that, it's interesting. The 100% renewable data center that they just brought online, I mean, I'm all for that, so green is good that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting news that are coming out. So some of the points that kind of what stood out to you, Peter?
I guess coming back to that Microsoft 365 side, I mean, the Office 365 groups, there were some interesting stats there that usage has continued to double year over year from that point of view. Not just the 100 million monthly active users, but 9 million external users brought into that environment as well. So it's not just about within your organization, but it's outside your organization.
And they've been beefing up those capabilities around the external sharing, the external use capabilities over the last few months. And so it's not surprising that we're seeing the growth there. There's a lot of excitement around that.
Exactly. And then, some other interesting little tidbit things, the fact that we can now go in, SharePoint people, rename our sites, make our site collection a new site and replace it. Those sound like small things, but they're actually a really big deal.
I think there was at the MVP summit when they talked about that, there was a breakout of minor applause around that one. So it's a pain point for a lot of people.
So one of the big announcements is Project Cortex. This is a very cool combining of search and AI and knowledge discovery and people discovery all together. So that, I'm very excited to hear about.
A lot of the conversation around that, so it's been shared out by one of the principal PMs, Chris McNulty, talking about it extensively. Adam Harmetz has shared a bunch of details. It's his team that's actually going and engineering the solution. Naomi Moneypenny, who is part of that organization and comes from that search and AI background. There's just kind of all of those components that are part of the solution. It really is kind of for those of us that have been in the knowledge and information management space, collaboration technology for years, it's kind of like the path forward. It's not looking at the bits and pieces of the technology and say, well, now how do we use all of these components to do enterprise content management in a better way?
It's more than that, it's the actionable side of it. Like, yes, we've got Knowledge Center, which is a very cool thing, but the thing I really like is the task card idea, that you could get an email or a calendar appointment that comes in and the AI has read that and said, this is something important here, it's flagged it, you hover over it, you actually get a task card with all the related people, documents, all the background. So imagine you're going into a meeting, if you're like me, your calendar's insane and you're back to back all the way through, you don't have time to prep, but here right in Project Cortex, it's actually doing that prep for you and saying, here's everything you need to know about what you're about to dive into, and in context, not having to context switch as part of that.
And there's a lot of talk about the AI generated content and the publishing that content, creating these wiki-like pages pages around common things. There's an example used of these common, there's a WIP, WIP, for which could mean something in the telephony world. In the project management world, it's a work in progress, and very different things. And so the system could go and generate content and definitions of each of those things in context to what you're collaborating on, what you're talking about with your project team, provide a link via the WIP acronym, but know that in my case, it is telephony. In your case, it's the work in progress of project management, and then send us to 2 different pages that it auto-generates based on, what it knows about us, the users in our system, and the conversation, the context of the content that is created.
Right. I mean, the other thing I'm excited about Project Cortex is the automatic categorization of content. If you think about, we've been fighting this battle for how long of getting people not to use folders and to tag things with metadata. Yeah. What do people do today? They still use folders because it's too much work to tag stuff. So now we're seeing the AI starting to come in there to do that auto categorization. So imagine I've scanned, 1 million invoices as an organization. Not only will it OCR those, but it'll pick up what's the PO number, what's the invoice number, what's the amount, tag content appropriately for it, pull it all together for you.
And I see it really efficiently using the Microsoft Graph, and so some of the connectors that they're talking about early on, the various content types out there, being able to pull those in and consume them, it's all part of that as well. I think, but it's going to be one of the first solutions that is truly leveraging the power of the Microsoft Graph and reaching into all of the workloads in which we're working and creating that web of connectors to all this content, and then truly automating a lot of the way that we're working around our content.
And one of the key reasons we want people to tag stuff and use metadata is from a findability point of view and from a search point of view, which leads into the next topic, which is search. I mean, that's a very big part of Project Cortex, but there's also big things we've been hearing about Microsoft Search and how that's coming across the whole platform.
I always like the phrasing of it. It's just like, we're not searching, we're trying to find something. And so to say that it's a great user experience in how you go and find content, the system, there's a lot that can be done through an automated through AI and through machine learning, the machine teaching process, where the system gets smart about it and says, well, Peter's doing this activity, this is what he's really going and looking for, and presenting that data.
It's actually turning it around the other way, saying rather than me go looking for it, present it to me and predict what I'm going to want. And it's a little scary. I mean, when we show people Delve in the past, there's always that, ooh, Big Brother is watching everything I'm doing. Well, it's all secured. You only see what you're supposed to see. I mean, that's an important part of the message we need to get across to people.
It's interesting you bring up Delve. The one comment I would make is that for a lot of, I was very excited by the possibilities of Delve. The reality for a lot of organizations was when even now, it's kind of skewed their perspective of the value of Delve and what was done there. Delve now, that capability has been built across into all the workloads.
It's surfacing
kind of spread up, right. But when Delve was launched, it was, because there was no data in it, we got this just generic experience. Users looked at it and said, well, so what? And it was like, yes, but it needs to consume more. Yeah. Right, and you need to use it so it can learn. And to some extent, I mean, the Project Cortex and even the search experience inside of an organization has those same limitations where you need to have the sources, it needs to have the content, the data within it, and it needs to learn from the interaction, it needs to learn from the usage, and you need to go in and tweak and add to it and massage it to get to that point. So I don't know, am I just trying to temper expectations around some of these solutions? But I mean, Microsoft is aware of the shortcomings of the launch of Delve and the fact that in some of the conversations we've had around Project Cortex and around some of the new search capabilities and AI capabilities, they're well aware of that experience and not wanting to repeat that.
Curated experiences as well, right. Saying that AI isn't everything. You need to be able to customize, and that was something else that came up on the search side. We've had modern search for a year now, but it is what it is and you can't tweak it. Well, now they're down talking about, okay, we can customize that. We can do some interesting things there.
I do think that is important. The curation experiences within some of these solutions that Microsoft is building, we need to understand out the door the administration experiences, the curation experiences to make sure that we optimize. I think ultimately the success of these solutions has to have those components in place day one.
And even on the customization side, the ability to now bring in custom connectors to say, okay, we're going to pull content from other systems and make that part of the the Microsoft search experience. So some exciting stuff. Still looking forward to.
Well, there's a lot going on with Teams. In fact, if for those that aren't here at Ignite, there's just an entire section down that way here in the Expo Hall, in the hub, around Teams, and a lot of activity. Just most of the conversations that I've had are people that are starting that deployment process and want to know best practices and want to know how to leverage kind of all the different capabilities. And there's a lot that's just changing.
Let's be serious. I mean, Teams is huge.
Yeah, there's a lot
going on. You can't
going
go anywhere in Microsoft without hearing about Teams, and we're a heavy user. You are, I'm sure, yourself as well. I love it. And some of the things that we've been missing, like a native document experience where we've got, all the stuff that Project Cortex is handling with metadata, let's actually surface that in Teams. We've been crying for that. It's coming, so that's good to see.
Yeah, like the background blur, also the background replace capability.
I like to replace. I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah, so I've started playing with that, and it's sometimes a little bit.
You want to be on a beach or in a meeting room? Or?
Yeah, it's kind of funny to do that, and when it can throw you off a bit when you go into a meeting and somebody's on a beach.
I mean, the background audio stuff is cool. I mean, here we are shooting a video. We picked a quiet time. The hub is after hours and pretty quiet, but they actually showed a video of a guy doing a Teams call. Beep, beep, beeping truck in the background, construction noise, you turn on the audio enhancement, and the AI actually just makes all that disappear. It's very cool.
Well, one of the things that is a big topic for me, and you've seen kind of incremental improvements over the last few months, but is the task integration across Teams, Planner, and To-Do.
Tasks are in so many places.
This is historically, that's been a massive problem, and I'm glad that Microsoft went and recognized what the world wanted them to recognize, is that these tasks are the same to us.
They only can live in one place.
Correct. There needs to be a flow of tasks in between these things. So I'm getting to be more and more of a Microsoft To-Do app user on my phone, because any planner that I'm in, all the interactions, the things, the assignments that I'm given within conversations within Teams, anything that finds its way into Planner finds its surface through the To-Do app.
So it's nice to see that happening in Teams as well. And in that sort of fluid interface, the whole email to Teams. I mean, the reality is that not all of your conversations are going to happen in Teams. You're talking to external people that don't use Teams, it's going to be email. So how do we move those conversations seamlessly back and forth?
Which makes perfect sense, because the value of the conversations in Teams is that it's the conversations happening in context to the project, in context to the content. Email's not going away.
No.
And so sometimes it's very relevant, it's an important part of collaboration, but you need to have those threaded discussions in context to those emails and have them related. So I'm glad that they're surfacing that information.
And even things like attachments and everything from the email transitioning right into the Teams conversation. You had to do a lot of cutting and pasting and magic manually to make that happen before. It's literally just drag and drop across, so that's cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are coming up that we're going to see happen over the next 6 to 8 months. So really kind of into the first half of this next year. So it's a lot of the features that I'm most excited about. I know that I'm part of the preview programs for some of them. I'm on the first ring, so we'll see some of those features come out. I mean, I'm excited about seeing some of the live captions, the multilingual capabilities.
That's really cool, like the fact that maybe we don't both speak English, and the live caption for each of us can be in a native language.
If you've not seen this demoed, I mean, it's brilliant too, and the fact that you can sit there and have a live meeting, and someone who's only a native German speaker can, in fact, I think that the demo that I saw where it was Japanese, and so they had all of that in real time. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of blow your mind kind of stuff. And then simpler things like managed meeting rooms. I mean, I don't know about you, but how many times do you walk into a meeting room and it takes 10 minutes to figure out how to get the speakerphone working or the projector on or something else? That Microsoft can actually manage that equipment and let your help desk know that, hey, this device is broken in this meeting room, go fix it before it causes somebody grief. It
doesn't, unfortunately, solve the problem of people asking inevitably, it's like, can you see my screen? Can you see it now?
Yeah. I mean, it was funny in the demo when he said, I'm going to unplug the cable and we can actually see that it's unplugged, but unfortunately we don't have the software to physically plug the cable back in there, but we're working on it.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
I think one of the more exciting features, most requested of Teams, is the pop-out chat capability.
Yes. I want to have multiple windows going, and I want to lose my half-composed conversation that I have when somebody chats me, and let me pop that out.
Yep, that's going to be a big thing. And then, of course, the whiteboarding capability. I mean, I've been so impressed by just the Windows 10 inking capabilities, and so I've been using that, and so now to have the whiteboard capability be to have additional functionality. So if you're using a whiteboard in a meeting,
Physical whiteboard,
a physical
I don't have
whiteboard.
the expensive smart device. I'm just using a plain old marker on a whiteboard.
My preference is to have it the physical representation, be able to draw on that board, and so now to be able to make the person presenting kind of semi-transparent, so you can see through. I mean,
you can see what they're writing even though they're standing in front of it.
They're blocking
the camera. That's amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
The big announcements are behind us, but there's probably going to be drips of other things coming out over the next couple of days.
I think they're holding out. There's going to be a lot happening on Friday, at the end.
Just before, Well, it was great talking with you, Christrian.
It's great talking to you as well.
Enjoy the rest of Ignite.
And for those, if you are at Ignite, enjoy the rest of the conference.